Hello, I am going to be reading blog posts. I was reading this blog post, Understanding Numbers, Developing Your Intuition for Math, it's called. And now I was in this part of understanding E. I got through this part that talks about compound growth, and it was interesting. Now, this is the second definition, also about like the components of compound interest. Now the third. Now to the third and shortest definition. What does it mean? Instead of thinking derivative, which turns your brain into equation crunching mode, think about what it means, the feeling of the equation. Make it your friend. d dx blah equals blah. It's the calculus way of saying your rate of growth is equal to your current amount. Well, growing at your current amount would be a 100% interest rate, right? And by always growing, it means you are always calculating interest. It's another way of describing continuously compound interest. Definition 3. Define E as a function that always grows at 100% of your current value. Nice. E is the number where you are always growing by exactly your current amount. Not 1% or 200%. Interesting. Time for the last definition. It's a tricky one. Here's my interpretation. Instead of describing how much you grew, why not say how long it took? If you're at 1 and growing at 100%, it takes 1 unit of time to get from 1 to 2. But once you're at 2 and growing 100%, it means you're growing at 2 units per time. So it only takes 1/2 unit of time to go from 2 to 3. And going from 3 to 4 only takes 1/3 unit of time, and so on. The time needed to grow from 1 to A is the time from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 and so on until until you get to A. The first definition defines the natural log, ln, Neperian logarithm as well, as shorthand for this time to grow computation. It's a good explanation. ln A is simply the time to grow from 1 to A. When they say that E is the number that takes exactly 1 unit of time to grow to. Said another way, E is the amount of growth after waiting exactly 1 unit of time. Define the time needed to grow continuously from 1 to A as ln A. E is the amount of growth that you have after 1 unit of time. Wablamau. These are 4 different ways to describe the mysterious E. Once we have the core idea, E is about 100% continuous growth, the crazy equations snap into place. It's possible to translate calculus into English. Math is about ideas. What's the moral? In math class, we often start with the last, most complex idea. It's no wonder we're confused. We're showing DNA and expecting students to see the cat. This is the analogy that comes here, right? I've learned a few lessons from this approach, and it underlies how I understand and explain math. Search for insights and apply them. That first intuitive insight can help everything else snap into place. Start with a definition that makes sense and walk around the circle to find others. Develop mental toughness. Banging your head against an idea is no fun. If it doesn't click, come at it from different angles. There's another book, another article, another person who explains it in a way that makes sense to you. It's okay to be visual. We think of math as rigid and analytic, but visual interpretations are okay. Do what develops your understanding. Imaginary numbers were puzzling until their geometric interpretation came to light, decades after their initial discovery. Looking at equations all day didn't help mathematicians get what they were about. Math becomes difficult when we emphasize definitions over understanding. Remember that the modern definition is the most advanced step of thought, not necessarily the starting point. Don't be afraid to approach a concept from a foreign angle. Figure out the plain English sentence behind the equation. Happy math.
Oh,
An intuitive guide. Wait.
Hey guys, this is Khalid here. I just want to give you a quick overview about the key insights about E. This is essentially what I wish I could have gone back in time and told myself about E, way back in high school. Ready? Here we go. Okay, E is essentially the epitome of universal growth. What does that mean? Why is it universal? Well, we can start off with regular growth. If you consider something that changes over time, like a simple progression is doubling, right? So you are at time one, you have a certain amount. At time two, you double. At time three, you double again, so you have four, and so on. And you basically have some kind of exponential curve. And then we can call this 2 to the x. So at some amount of time, as you go along, you basically get some amount of growth happening. Now, this might seem universal, and it is for a few reasons. The first is that 2, that's 100% growth, which basically means that you're doubling by the amount that you have. So it's kind of universal in that sense, right? It's like unit growth. So if you tripled, that's kind of 200% growth, which is it's not exactly as clean as 100% growth. So there is a cool kind of symmetry here where you're growing by the amount that you have. So basically, this goes here, and then you get a new interest, and then these go here, and you get new interest as well. So 100% is kind of a neat idea, but there's a problem. You waited until the end of the period to get all your interest. You had nothing, you were just normal, and then suddenly, boom, this guy popped in out of nowhere. And this actually isn't that common, right? If you think about natural processes, things don't just appear out of nowhere, they grow slowly over time. For example, take a look at a cell. Um, if we start with the same idea of growth, we might have a cell, and over time, it has a little buddy. And this little buddy is kind of emerging out of him, right? And eventually, it'll pop out. So it didn't pop out all of a sudden. Over time, it sort of emerged, and then each day got a little bit more, and finally, it was a new cell of its own. So the idea is that instead of getting all your growth at the end, which happens with 2 to the x that we saw, kind of like a staircase, right? It sort of goes up like that.
Okay, I'm going to pause this. It's very interesting, but I remember things. So, pictures. Ask ChatGPT about them. Okay, I want to tweet something. Lol. Okay, what the fuck do you want to say? Something about the fact that it'd be cool if you could. Ah. Something about my notes. ChatGPT about them. Oh yeah. Hello. By the way, I am tweeting something. I want to, I'm comparing, right? Imagine if you could use like ChatGPT to generate images, but it was like it did it in real time, right? So as you are typing the blue sky, right? It starts generating something, then it doesn't generate anything. Then it generates something blue. Then it generates a sky, right? Right as you type. That would be pretty fucking cool. And then imagine like the thing why you want to do that is to compare between languages, right? Maybe when you start doing like see, for example, here, this is what I want to compare, right? For example, Japanese, then Spanish. So this is by the window in Japanese. Let's see. By the window. Kasukana. This means like luz tenue. Kasukana akari. See, you start. So now the image generation thing would start generating the light. This is what I mean. How are you feeling? I don't know. Normal, I would say. Not super motivated, but not with a lot of negative feelings either. Well, there is always, I don't want to talk about the negative things. How are you feeling? Where were you from? I'm not sure if I ever knew where you were from. I know that you knew a little bit of Russian or a lot of Russian, but I'm not sure where you were from. Let's see. I'm in Finland right now. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, you were in Finland, but you didn't say where were you from. But I don't know. Doesn't matter a lot either. Say whatever you want to say. I'm not sure if you answered the car question. What car do you drive? Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Okay, let's ask ChatGPT to translate it into English. Can you translate it into English? Oops. Okay. Let's do this. So the by the window is the same. Me, Finland. Okay. What languages do you know? You know Finnish, I guess? Russian, English? Yeah, that sounds very Finnish, I would say. You are very close to Russia, so it makes sense to know it, I guess. Some Finnish, like the Finnish people from the left, I guess, know Swedish, right? There are places of Finland that speak Swedish, a lot of Swedish, right? I want to download the game. I'm afraid it won't pull. What game? Okay, let's ask ChatGPT if it can do this. Can you segment the sentence into what each segment corresponds to the other? Fuck, I'm explaining myself so bad. To the other. To the segment in the other language? Pff, certainly. Okay, nice. I don't know English well, sometimes I have to find out. What game do you mean? Sorry, I don't get it. I don't know English well, sometimes I have to find out how to spell something to a translator. I don't know, you seem to know English well enough. Better than the guy you were talking about, you were talking to yesterday, I think, right? Than Zomech. Okay, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Then, no, fuck. Fuck. Let's remove everything. Let's do this. Black. This. Okay. Red. Kazukana Akari ni Kasubu, o como se diga. So, this green Kazukana Akari ni in the floating light. In the faint light. Then Gakasubu, then yellow. Bueno, I'm saying it wrong, by the way. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
浮かぶ浮かぶ
Okabu. Then the plants. Let's say this one. Then from the 10th floor. From the 10th floor. Jutokara. I'm not sure how it's pronounced either. Let's see.
10階からの
Jikkai kara no.
豪華な夜景
magnífica vista nocturna. Let's see. And sotto
そっと息づいそっと息づいていた。
what does this nibuchi framed, I guess.
に縁取られ
Fuchirarete. Okay, framed. Let's use this color, for example. Okay. Yeah, because in English and in Spanish it's pretty similar, right? But in Japanese it changes a lot. It changes a lot. If I were to do it in Spanish in real time, it would be different. And this. Look, the colors are more or less. The colors are like are the concepts. Spanish and English are pretty similar, but Japanese changes a lot. See, it would be interesting, right? So it would be interesting if you were to type it. If you were Japanese and were typing this sentence, you would type like, yeah, the kazukana kari ni. So it would be like, by the window, some like this light, the faint light, floating the plants, right? So it would start, you would start typing and it would appear like the first the window would appear in all languages, but then in Japanese the faint light would start appearing first, and then something would start to appear to float, but it wouldn't know what it has like the thing would not know what has to float, and then it would be plants, right? So for example, in Spanish it would be different, right? In Spanish it would be window, then it shows plants, then it shows them floating, and then it shows the fucking light, right? The faint light. Japanese is probably very difficult, but you're good. Nah, I'm not good. I just translated it. ChatGPT is good. In real time, in Japanese, you'd see the window, then the faint light, then something would have to float, then it would be plants. In NS, you'd see the window, then the plants, etc. I don't know, I think it's interesting, right? And I think we are not that far away from this happening, right? I can already say to ChatGPT, like, describe me this sentence, right? It's what I did. This is from some months ago, right? I told it, do this. But yeah, if I tell him this right now, right, it will wait, right? I will have to wait, creating image, But there will come a time where it is instantaneous, right? When I start typing and it starts showing me. Maybe not ChatGPT, but other software, right? Like Midjourney. The next stage of Midjourney is probably like that, right? It's probably maybe not the next one, but in some iterations it will come to this, I guess. Or there will be other type of software that does this. I don't know. I think, to me, it reminds me kind of, it's like exploring the latent space of the machine, right? It's like, what does it picture when you tell it this? It's like doing brain scans on someone, right? If you were to brain scan me and you read me this sentence aloud, and you could somehow brain scan me and see what I'm picturing in my head, right? But that sounds like more difficult than and less accessible to me, right? I don't know. Okay, that's what I wanted to tweet. I was watching this video actually. Okay, let's save this. Guardar. PDN. Guardar en mierda de internet. Japanese, English, real-time image example. Cerrar. Okay, I was watching this video. I was just watching this video, sorry. Like, I'm not going to provide a lot of commentary, I guess. But this guy, I recommended this guy, right? Better explained. It does explain this post. I will put it here. I don't know. It's an interesting thing about math. An interesting post about kind of math-related things. What do you do, by the way? How old are you? Do you study? Work? Because, for example, I would say that I was a math guy, right? I was good at math in school. And I went to a math advanced school, right? After school, I went to kind of this advanced school for mathematics and all this. And it was interesting. But I was never like super good, right? I was not a math genius or something like that. Meanwhile, I was kind of in that advanced school, I was surrounded by people who were like actually good at math. And it was interesting. But for example, right now, I don't do anything math related. But for example, I'm not someone who fears math. I know there are a lot of people who are like, I hate math, right? They have this kind of ideological perspective of hating math. Like it is kind of their ideology, I guess. Or, well, not ideology. More like they have this kind of hatred of math in their brains. And I don't have that, right? I don't have a hatred of math. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like I like to watch these kind of math things, but math is hard, right? So it's hard shit. So I like things that try to make it like easier and all this, like that try to bring it down, bring the understanding to more, I don't know, to more intuitive stuff. And this was something like it.
We're talking about kind of a more smooth, gradual growth. So if you think about this is actually the more like nature, right? In nature, things grow slowly over time. They don't sort of suddenly appear out of nowhere and have a kind of a discontinuous jump. So if you really want to have a universal way to talk about growth, it really should be more of a smooth change instead of kind of a staircase-like pattern, because really that never happens. Things, don't happen instantaneously. It happens over time. Now there is one little side effect though. When we're growing this cell, it couldn't actually grow on its own. We sort of waited until we had a
I studied very poorly at school, somewhere in America. I didn't even study until the 9th grade. Somewhere in America? Why were you in America? Oh, were you born in America? And like homeschooled or something like that? So didn't go to school and then you went to Finland and studied in the and started at 9th grade or something. But you're just like a teacher. Maybe my knowledge would be better with you. Lol. Hope so, if it works. I mean, I'm not like a teacher of anything, I guess, right? I don't teach any specific things. I don't teach math, for example. But yeah, I like knowing things, I guess. And I think that's kind of an important thing. Okay, I'm going to continue playing the video.
red cell, and then that red cell could start having its own interests, like a green cell coming out. So we have a red cell, and then we have a green cell emerging, right? So the red was kind of stuck, and the green started coming out as well. So this, again, isn't quite as smooth as it could be, because while we're growing the red can't grow on its own. And one kind of neat thing is that money actually is a good example of something which doesn't have this problem. So here's the idea. If we're looking at the way money grows, we might have $1.
See, this is when it starts to get interesting. When we talk money, now I'm paying attention. I mean, if I had studied in America, I would have already been expelled, since there is a strict systematic education. Oh. Is it like more chill in Finland? I watch a channel from a Finnish girl, by the way, YouTube, how is it called? Sini. Sini is a very Finnish name, I think, right? This one. She talks in Spanish, right? So she's been living in Spain, and she talks a lot about like the differences between Finland and Spain and all that. It's interesting. I mean, it's in Spanish, but yeah, I don't know. So for some context, I guess. Because, for example, yeah, this video is about happiness or whatever, right? So apparently, kind of Finland is in the happiness lists all of the time, and she talks about that, right? And she says that, in her opinion, it's because in Finland, it's like the education is kind of free, and healthcare and all that is free, and they are kind of free, good quality, blah blah blah, right? So it's like there is a lot of what in Spanish is called bienestar, like wellness or well-being, something like that, right? But she doesn't like the Finnish winter. Not the rain or the snow, or the cold, but the light. She doesn't like the very few hours of light. I studied in Russia, but now I live in Finland. Can you tell me your life? Were you born in Russia as well? Or born in Finland, then to Russia, then to back to Finland? Okay, let's see. Maps. I don't like doing that because it shows you like literally my house. But I don't know. This is going to be a problem when I'm famous and people go back to my old streams. But I will have moved out by then, I guess. But so I won't mind that people see where I lived. Murmansk. Yeah, St. Petersburg is really close to Finland, actually. I hadn't noticed that. Dumb. How, let's say, Helsinki, St. Petersburg. ¿Cómo llegar? Ruta hacia aquí, ruta desde aquí. Okay, 8 hours. Can't you take this route? Yeah, 5 hours. In Russia, you don't even need to study. The main thing is just to sit at your desk. Interesting. How is St. Petersburg in Russian? St. Petersburgo. Sankt Petersburg. Sankt Petersburg. Leningrad, Petrograd. Coloquialmente, Peter.
Санкт-Петербург, Ленинград, Петроград, Питер.
Interesting. How much school did you do in Finland? In Russia? All of it. And then you moved to Finland to work. Or until you say 9th grade. What's 9th grade? Ninth grade USA. 9th grade is usually the first year in high school. The average US is 14 to 15. Okay, so in Spanish, like in Spain. Okay, so first grade is so early. K-12. Primary. Okay. Find the city of Lappeenranta. Oh, so close. Are you from this city? This city really is close to this. Okay, ¿cómo llegar a tu ruta desde aquí? 3 hours. How big is this place? Viborg.
Vyborg.
Leningrad. Oblast de Leningrad. It's difficult to explain, but this school is number 9. It's located in Viborg. Oh, lol. So just Viborg. Damn, pretty old. Erection. This means like the actual war direction. 74,000 people. Okay, decent sized. Let's say how to ruta hacia aquí. Ruta desde aquí. Ruta hasta aquí. 1 hour and a half from Russia. Suomi. Wonder how this border is right now. I guess it's like tricky, right? But people like will probably cross it, right? It's not like North Korea type shit, I guess. Let's see. Number 9, located in Viborg. Yeah, I think if I do something like this, it shows me like 20. I guess it's something like that, right? So district 9 or something, I guess. Or maybe the 20 is the number of the in the street. I don't know. Yeah, that is the number in the street, I guess. I guess. 9. Prospect Lenina 9. Hello, happy Easter. Omeon. Hello, happy Easter to you as well. How do we call this in Spain? Domingo de Pascua, I think also. Yeah, like Easter Sunday, I guess. Hoy. Día de hoy. Yeah, but like, ¿qué se celebra? Ay, qué coñazo. Where are you from? I always ask these 2 questions. Where are you from? And what car do you drive? So feel free to say them. I think TY has not said the car yet, but I respect that. I saw a school, a library. Let's see. Colegio. Buscar. It takes me to my town. Finland, St. Petersburg, Viborg. Buscar esta zona. Mbow, Soch, número 6, Viborg. Soch. I guess Soch is kind of like secondary educación something, I get it. I am from Utah in America and I drive a Nissan Versa. Nice. I remember, the Nissan Versa is not like the most exciting car in the world, but I think it's interesting. I remember this generation of the Nissan Versa. Let's see. 2013, something like that. No. Nissan Versa hatch. Yeah, the 2011 Versa, I think. This Versa. This kind of Versa. Because I played this game called Car Town. Yes, this. 2008, I guess. And I had a blue one. I had a blue Nissan Versa in this game. And I had it like tuned up with like flames and all that shit. Yeah, see, there were like promotion ones as well. There was a lot of liveries in this game. It was interesting. I liked that game. Like, it was not a lot of driving, it was more like collecting, but I like that. Yeah, mine probably looked something like this. I played this game a ton on Facebook when I was younger. Yeah, same. No, I did it. This is Viborg, I think. Ah, no, this is Usurysk. Okay. Let's see. Escola número 6. Koulu. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. Okay, true. Koulu. Koulu is Finnish, right? I guess. Escola Koulu. Useless. Nice. Alina Xenofontova. Valeria Harchenko. Lugar paradisiaco. Raisko Emesto. Me alimentan muy bien. By the way, a friend brought me grass from America. A delicious variety. What do you mean grass from America? Like weed, California weed or what? Or like actual grass? Is weed legal in Finland? Weed, Finland. It's illegal. Prescribed for medicinal purposes. Weed culture in Finland. Northern Finland for quite some time, blah blah blah. I've seen a lot of people wearing caps that say hashtag Blazed or hashtag Haze. They always claim they don't use it in uniform. Is it because the local Dawson Street, blah blah blah, before I moved to Finland? You won't get me this way, you're a police person. A salad all the way from Colorado. Delicious. Utah. I don't know a lot about Utah. Utah, Mormons, I guess, right? Something like that. Oh shit, this looks good. Is Utah the place with the Mormons or not? Mormones. Okay, yes. Salt Lake City. Oh, the place with the interesting flag. I know this place. Ogden. Damn, a lot of nature. Holy shit. 26,000, 22,000, 7,000, 4,000, 25,000, 39,000. Kings Peak. Macho. Ski places. Nice. Is it still snowy now? April, first week of April. Well, still not first week of April, but last week of March. Where I am, it kind of snowed. Let's see, what latitude is this? Yeah, it's basically the same latitude as I am. Copiar. Let's see. Here in Utah, I grew up Mormon. Okay, good. Is it true that you can grass at any store and how much is the price. I grew up Mormon. You can get it pretty easily depending on the state. Here in Utah, you can only get it legally for medical reasons. There is still a lot of snow. Might snow again in a few hours. Where in Utah are you? Big city or small town? In Russia, they give you 10 years for marijuana because of a couple of grams. The bar authorities are going to have a revolution soon, or rather, it is already underway. Yeah, strange situation over there. Where in Finland are you? Are you in that place you mentioned? Or have you gone to the big city or something? What did you say? Lappeenranta. Half of the state lives around the capital. I'll let you guess. Maybe you could be the other half. Let's say Utah density map. You probably live in the red parts, right? You could live here, though. Not sure what it is. Maybe there. Or here, whatever that is. Can you see it? Or let's see. Yeah, you can see it, right? Yes. Maybe there. Maybe. But probably, I guess, here. This is like SLC. This is Provo, right? SLC, Provo. Why doesn't it show the lakes? Because it's obvious that the lakes are going to have like 0 people in the water, right? I don't know. Like all of this fucking place, all of that is lake. Why are there 25 people there? Well, I don't know. Great observation. America is good. I want to go to Spain. I like Spain. I don't like the jobs that you can get in Spain, though. Or the ones that I can get, at least. I don't like the engineering jobs that are here. And I don't like the pay in the other jobs. So I would probably stay in Spain if I got kind of a remote job that paid well. But I don't know. I also like America. I would like to visit at least. Spend some time. Well, not just visit, but like spend some time in America. New York, maybe. I like New York. But in New York, not a lot of time, maybe. A lot of Utah is currently owned by the federal government too, but mostly it's just desert anyway. All of the one parts, I guess, are desert, right? This is desert. Probably this too. Yeah, all that is nice, beautiful state, though. Whoa, what is this? Military base or something? Utah Test and Training Range. Oh no, it's literally just empty. Oh, nice. Ah, okay, Salt Lake City. That's because of... Is the salt thing here? Like the Bonneville... that kind of strip? I like that shit. The Bonneville Salt Flats. Bonneville Salt Flats. Okay, yeah, they're in Utah. I do want to go to Utah then. I want to go to this event one day. Not that far from you. Well, I guess maybe it is far from you. Ruta hacia aquí. 1 hour. Okay. Not bad. Well, 1 hour and a half. Well, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But 2 hours, let's say. So funny that it is literally so empty. Insane. I think in Spain we have this place. I don't think, let's say, Salares en España. Salinas. There's a place called Salares. Look. I'm not sure if a salina is the same thing as that, as a salt flat. See, salinas are like these kind of things, I guess. They are like still watery. A salar, it's like in Bolivia there is a big salar, el Salar de Uyuni. This. Salar de Uyuni. Okay, it is a salina, I guess. Same thing. I have a friend who's been there, who's like half Bolivian, and he's been. Interesting. In Spain, there's also a place that is called like Salinas. I've gone a couple of times. Ooh, that's pretty. Salina, let's see, más grande de España. Torrevieja. I've been to Torrevieja, but I'm not sure if I've been to the Salinas. Oh, I think I've been. Salt companies do that on the southeastern side of the lake, collecting salt. Salt Lake City is a pretty funny name, now that I think about it. Just, yeah, like, we're straightforward here. We are the Salt Lake City. Like, don't think about it more. We are not like the Provo people putting like funny names on shit. We just are the Salt Lake City. Capeta. I'm running capets. I'm running all over the apartment now, and I can find a hair fixator. Hair fixator. Oh, the spray or something. Only capital city in the US that has 3 words. It's the capital city. It's probably only like one of the few capital cities that are actually the biggest city in the States, right? Yeah. In English, most populous city, let's say. Capital. List of capitals in the state. Philly. Okay, I think Philly is the biggest in Pennsylvania, right? Oh, the second. Oh no, the most populous city in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. Blah. Oh, served as the nation capital. Okay, I'm seeing national capitals. Okay, state capitals. Montgomery. Okay, this one isn't. This one isn't. This one I think could be Phoenix. Capital and most populous. Little Rock. Capital and most populous. Sacramento, definitely not. Denver. I don't know Denver. City and most populous. Okay. Hartford. Capital, but not. I guess it's not the most populous. Connecticut. Not Maker, what the fuck? Largest city, Bridgeport. Didn't know that, but Delaware, Dover. Second most. Tallahassee, definitely not. Atlanta, I think this one is. Honolulu, this one could be. Idaho, Boise, I think this could be as well. Springfield. 7th most populous. Illinois, of course. Okay, this definitely isn't then. Like, I forgot about Chicago. Indianapolis, maybe could be. Yes. Des Moines, no idea. Topeka. Didn't even know that was a thing. Frankfurt. I have a friend who knows all the capital cities of the United States. And he's not from the United States, like a friend from Spain. Okay, what was I doing? I forgot. Oh, I was watching this math video. Okay, this one. Let's go back.
And over time, it's $1. But you know what? It earns interest. So as time goes on, your dollar earns
Okay, this was about money.
Eventually, you have a new dollar, shiny new dollar all for yourself. But the cool thing is that with money, interest can earn interest. So this red amount that you earned, well, that can earn its own interest here, which kind of shows up here. And this green interest, well, it can earn its own maybe brown interest that shows up here as well. If you look at the article, there's kind of a worked example. But the idea is this.
He draws the examples here. Interesting. Can we get infinite money?
Your regular amount kind of...
Call. What do you mean with call? COL, cost of living in Spain. I said it's relatively low, but for the amount you earn, it's pretty bad in the big cities. And the big cities are where the jobs are, so it's kind of a catch. Not sure if catch 22 or like whatever, a cat and mouse game, I don't know, something like that, right? Something that the house is expensive, like in the places where the houses are cheap, it's because there is no work, and in the places where where there is work, the houses are expensive, right? So it's annoying.
Goes along like that. It earns some interest, which is this kind of red growth here. And that red growth, well, that earns its own interest, which is this kind of green growth here. And that green growth earns its own interest, which is this brown growth, and so on. So there's actually an infinite amount of growth happening, and it sort of looks like that. So what ends up happening is you get this curve, which has sort of an infinite number of components. The biggest components come from these kind of giant chunks in the beginning, but you end up having...
Hi, Aratrika. How's it going? Where are you from? I'm guessing India, but I'm not sure where. And what car do you drive? Or what bike do you ride? Because I, like the people in India from my streams, have always like ridden bikes. So maybe what bike do you ride?
Smaller and smaller groups emerging.
Oh, and I'm watching this video about compound interest, I guess. About the number E.
So it's a bunch of little slices, and eventually it caps out. Here's the idea. E is that cap. So if you add up all the slices, you get growth, which is actually e to the x. So E is basically the idea of taking growth, adding its interest, adding that's interest, adding that's interest, and so on and so on. And each time you do it, it gets a little bit narrower and narrower. And the max speed limit you hit, that's E. So the reason E is universal is the following. One, it's 100% growth. So the idea is that your original item, it'll actually double itself at the end of one period. So you start at, well, let's call this time 0. At the end of one period, your black amount has actually doubled itself. So that's why it's 100% growth. But 2, it's continuous. And this is really the key here. It's not jumping suddenly. As time goes on, each instant it's earning red, and the red's earning green, and the green's earning brown, and the brown's earning gray, and so on and so on. So this combination actually, that gives you some amount of growth at the end of the period, which is about 2.718 ... And that number is E. And basically, if you want to find out how much growth you have at the end of 2 periods or 3 periods, you just take e to some exponent. So the reason that e appears in every kind of formula is because it's a very common base universal way to talk about growth, and you can actually change the rate. So this is actually, okay, now I'm jumping into the kind of flexibility V. So e is basically 100% continuous growth, but it's also flexible. So e, I actually consider it e to the RT. So this is e to the rate times time. Oftentimes the rate is 100%, so you don't see it, because 100% is 1.0, right? So you don't actually see it. It's, invisible. But the idea is that if you adjust the amount of interest that you get at the end of a period, so right now it's 100%, let's say you only get 50% interest. So you'd have something like this. You're growing, and at the end of one period, you only get 50%, not 100% interest. You still have the same thing. That interest, earns some of interest on its own, 50%, and you get 50% of that. Let's see, we had brown coming up, then you get 50% of that, you had gray coming up. So you still get a pattern, but it's a little bit reduced. And the idea is, in this case, it would actually be e to the 0.5, because it's 50% interest, and then times the amount of time that you want to take it for. So you could have 50% interest for 2 years, and it actually would be the same thing as 100% interest for 1 year, because 50% times 2 equals 100% times 1. So the cool thing about E is that it's really flexible. You can adjust the rate and time, and that works because it's based on very universal principles. 100% growth, and it's continuous. So there's no kind of jagged edges. So that's sort of the key insight about E. The article has some kind of computations, but here's one little cool fact. E can actually model the staircase.
Let's hit like.
Hey guys, like growth. So if we have this kind of jumpy growth, right, that's sort of appearing out of nowhere, E can actually match that to some smooth curve. So that will be e to some interest rate. I don't know, I'll just call it q or something, right? So e to the q, that can actually match up with any kind of jagged interest rate that you want, and it'll hit all the points. So the neat thing is that any kind of growth can be considered on its own as this jagged growth, or it can be considered as e raised to some interest rate. And the idea here is that you can actually use the natural logarithm to figure out what interest rate that is, but we'll get to that separately. So again, the idea is behind E. 100% growth. It's growing by itself. You start with something, it grows, and it earns interest. It is itself, which earns some interest on its own, and so on and so on. And also, it's continuous. It's smooth. It's not jagged like this. It's a smooth curve. And because of that, you can vary this growth from 100% to 50% growth, which actually changes the curve to be a little bit lower. And depending on how much you angle it, you can actually model any type of growth that you want.
That's interesting.
So that's my aha moment about E. It's not this magic number. It's not a magic spell. It's just taking the idea of growth and simplifying it to have as few assumptions as you can. Be growing by yourself 100%, and don't be jagged. And with that, you get E. Happy math.
Interesting. I read this because of this article, by the way. Oh, I had another one in my bookmarks. Let's check. Bookmarks. This blog. I wanted to check this blog out. And since I'm reading today, let's read this. For a given system, consider the degree to which it's trappable or non-trappable. Can it get stuck forever? You want to become less trappable and play games with fewer traps in them. E.g., have an emergency fund, don't play Russian roulette, go all in. And this article was about Russian roulette, so I want to check it out. Let's see, like that. Expand. One of the most frequent questions I get from readers is, how do I win at Russian roulette? I'm sure you can relate. You're standing in the dairy aisle at the grocery store and a stranger walks up to you and says, hey, I have a revolver in my car with one bullet in the chamber. Wanna play Russian roulette? And you're like, oh man, that sounds awesome. I'll bring my friends and we make it a game night. It makes sense. After all, 5 out of 6 Russian roulette players recommend it as a fun and profitable game. No? You haven't had the similar experience? That's probably good. But now that we're on the topic, how do you consistently win at Russian roulette? More to the point, what other scenarios like Russian roulette exist where winning once is feasible but winning consistently is highly improbable? The rules for Russian roulette are simple. You sit in a circle with 5 other people, point one bullet in a pistol with 6 chambers. No, put one bullet in the pistol with 6 chambers, and each person takes the turn at pointing the gun at their head and pulling the trigger. You might roll the dice and take 1 million to play Russian roulette one time, though I wouldn't advise it, but there's no amount of money that would make you play it 6 or more times. There are only 2 ways to consistently win Russian roulette. 1. Do not play. 2. Change the rules. Malcolm X knew how to consistently win at Russian roulette. During Malcolm X's vulgar career, he once played Russian roulette, pulling the trigger 3 times in a row while pointing it to his head to convince his partners in crime that he was not afraid to die. Malcolm X later revealed to a reporter that he had palmed the round. Not sure what palmed the round is. Palming is a technique for holding or concealing an object in the palm of his hand. Okay, interesting. Though you will hopefully never play Russian roulette, there are a surprising number of scenarios in life that have rules very similar to Russian roulette, but which otherwise sane and rational-seeming people, including Nobel Prize winners, choose to play. In fact, you may be playing one of those games right now and don't realize it. This is very probable, because I am unemployed, living with my parents, 26 years old, I don't know. And that feels like one of those games that you don't want to play continuously. How do you recognize games like Russian roulette where the only way to win is not to play? And how can you change the rules to make it work more favorable for you? The key is a big little idea called ergodicity. What I learned losing $56 million. Nice title. Considering the following thought experiment offered by Black Swan author Nassim Taleb. In scenario 1, which we will call the ensemble scenario, 100 different people go to Caesar's Palace Casino to gamble. Each brings a $1,000 and has a few rounds of gin and tonic on the house. I'm more of a piña colada man myself, but to each their own. Some will lose, some will win, and we can infer at the end what the edge is. Let's say in this example that our gamblers are all very smart or cheating and are using a particular strategy which on average makes a 50% return each day, 500 on this case. However, this strategy also has the risk that on average one gambler out of the 100 loses all their money and goes bust. In this case, let's say gambler number 28 blows up. Will gambler number 29 be affected? Not in this example. The outcomes of each individual gambler are separate and you don't depend on how the other gamblers fare. You can calculate that on average, each gambler makes about 500 blah blah blah. Using a standard cost-benefit analysis, you have a 99% chance of gains and an expected average return of 50%. Seems like a pretty sweet deal, right? Now compare this to scenario 2. This time, your card-counting cousin Theodorus goes to the Caesar Palace 100 days in a row, starting with 1,000 and employing the same strategy. He makes 50% on day 1, and so on. Now sitting at 3,000. On day 18, he has 1 million. On day 27, good old Theodorus has 56 million and is walking out of Caesar's channeling his inner Little Wayne. But when day 28 strikes, Theodorus goes bust. Will there be a day 29? Nope. He's broke and there is nothing left to gamble with. The central insight? The probabilities of success from the collection of people do not imply to one person. You can safely calculate that by using this strategy. Theodorus has a 100 probability of eventually going bust. Though a standard cost-benefit analysis suggests that this is a good strategy, it is actually just like playing Russian roulette. The first scenario is an example of ensemble probability, and the second one is an example of time probability. The first is concerned with a collection of people, and the other with a single person through time. Image, ensemble probability, the ruin of one does not affect the ruin of others. Ruined, survived. Boom, 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 boom. N observations. Approximately 1 in n face ruin. Time probability. One speculator across time. Boop, 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 boop. Ruined, game stops. No more game. Interesting concept. What is ergodicity? This thought experiment is an example of ergodicity. Any actor taking part in a system can be defined as either ergodic or non-ergodic. In an ergodic scenario, the average outcome of the group is the same as the average outcome of the individual over time. As an example of an ergodic system would be the outcomes of a coin toss, heads, tails. If 100 people flip a coin once or one person flips a coin 100 times, you get the same outcome, though the consequences of those outcomes, e.g. win, lose money, are typically non-ergodic. In a non-ergodic system, the individual over time does not get the average outcome of the group. That is what we saw in our gambling thought experiment. A way to identify an ergodic situation is to ask, do I get the same result if I look at one individual's trajectory across time? 2. Look at a bunch of individual trajectories at a single point in time. If yes, ergodic. If not, non-ergodic. We tend to think and are taught to think that as though most systems are ergodic. However, pretty much every human system is non-ergodic. By treating things that are non-ergodic as if they are ergodic creates a risk of ruin, as cousin Theodorus found out. If you want to not die or go bankrupt, ergodicity is an important idea to understand. This is particularly true in the case of financial education. Most finance material assumes ergodicity, that time and ensemble probabilities are the same, even though it is never the case. If I lose all your money, you are in no way comforted that other people who you don't know, did fine. Even if their assessment of the probabilities were right, no person can get the returns of the market unless they have infinite pockets. If the investor has to eventually reduce his or her exposure because of losses or margin calls, or because of retirement, or because a loved one got sick and needed an expensive treatment, the investor's returns will be divorced from those of the market. This is why examples such as if you had bought Amazon stocks in 1999 and held it for 20 years, you would have done great even, are dumb. From 1999, the price of the stock collapsed by over 90%. The type of person that bought a bunch of Amazon stock in 1999 probably also bought a bunch of other crap stocks and had a job in tech. In 2001, they had to sell everything to make rent. How not to lose all your savings? Consider the example of a retiring couple. Nick and Nancy, both 63 years old. Through sacrifice, wisdom, perseverance, and some luck, the couple has accumulated 3 million in savings. Nancy has put together a plan for how much money they can take out of their savings each year and make the money last until they are both 95. She expects to draw $180,000 per year with that amount, increasing 3% each year to account for inflation. The blue line describes the evolution of Nick's and Nancy's wealth after accounting for investment growth at 8%, and their annual withdrawals show the total wealth peaks at around age 75 before tapering off aggressively towards 95. For the sake of this example, let's assume Nick and Nancy know for sure that their average annual return will be 8% over this 32-year period. That's great. They're guaranteed to have enough money then, right? Turns out, no. It is non-ergodic, and so it depends on the sequence of those returns. From 1966 to 1997, the average return of the Dow Index was 8%. However, those returns varied greatly. From 1966 through 1982, there are essentially no returns, and as the index began the period at 1000 and ended the period at the same level. Then, from 1982 through 1997, the Dow grew at over 15% per year, taking the index from about 1000 to about 8000. The 80 is kind of crazy. And the 60 to 80 period, kind of insane. I think in the 80s is when Rentec appeared. Jim Simmons and all that. Even though the return averaged out at 8%, the implications for Nick and Nancy vary dramatically based on what order they come in. If these big positive returns happen early in the retirement blue line, they are in great shape and will do much better than Nancy's projections. However, if the returns in the order If they get the returns or that they actually happened, with a long flat period for the first 15 years, they go broke at age 79. Green line. Oops. The model is assuming ergodicity, but the situation for Nick and Nancy is non-ergodic. They cannot get the returns of the market because they do not have infinite pockets. In non-ergodic contexts, the concept of expected returns is effectively meaningless. The story of long-term capital management. Misunderstanding ergodicity is not just some mistake made by dumb retail investors like Nick and Nancy. Long-term capital management, LTCM, was founded in 1994 by John W. Meriwether, the former vice chairman, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Nobel Prize. This is, I guess, the point, right? That there are Nobel Prizes in this place. The story of LTCM reads just like Cousin Theodorus. LTCM was initially successful with an annualized return of over 21%. Blah, blah, blah. I can only assume Meriwether was working around the office, making it rain Lil Wayne style. In 1998, it lost 4.6 billion in less than 4 months. Holy fuck. An example of one trade which cost LTCM was an arbitrage between Royal Dutch and Shell. LTCM had established an arbitrage position in the dual-listed company Royal Dutch Shell in the summer of 1997 when Royal Dutch traded at a 10% premium related to Shell. A dual-listed company is a corporate structure in which two corporations function as a single operating business through a legal equalization agreement, but retain separate legal distance, blah, blah, blah. This meant it didn't make sense for Royal Dutch stock to be trading at a premium to Shell stock. They represented equal rights to future cash flows of the company. By going long Shell and short Royal Dutch, LTCM was essentially betting that the share prices of Royal Dutch and Shell would converge because a basic evaluation would show blah, blah, blah. In the long run, LTCM's models were right. Their positions were eventually liquidated at a profit. However, they were not the ones that realized that profit. In the short run, they died, being forced to sell in a bailout orchestrated by Wall Street banks. LTCM's collapse stemmed in part from their use of only 5 years of financial data to prepare their mathematical models, thus drastically underestimating the risks of a profound economic crisis. By definition, it is unlikely that a 1 in 20-year event would show up in 5 years of data, but substantially more likely it would show up within 20 years. This same logic is pervasive in how most people think about their businesses. It's entirely possible to correctly assess the probabilities that a new initiative is profitable and still go bankrupt. If you have a product which costs 1,000 to develop and 1% chance of generating 1 million, it is positive blah, 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 10,000. On average, this product generates a 10x return on investment. However, pursuing this strategy repeatedly guarantees that you will eventually file for bankruptcy. Lol. Funny. Economics often evaluates people as playing ergodic games, while subjects are often making choices as if game is non-ergodic. As Gerd, blah, blah, blah. Irrational behaviors or cognitive biases are actually individuals realizing that a system is non-ergodic and not optimizing for expected value. Interesting. Very interesting sentence. In search of antifragility, the central concept of Nassim Taleb's anti-fragile. Not sure if you guys know this song. Anti-fragile. Let's start with him. I don't want to play it because maybe...
I am anti-fragile. I'm anti-fragile. I'm anti-fragile. I'm anti-fragile. Fragile, 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 fragile. 나도 좀 듣는 내 rival. 모두 keep going and falling. Cause all we know I'm a jumping. Yes, give it up. 걸어봐 we are my client. 내가 바랬던 세계체.
I don't want to play it because copyright, but it's a nice song. There are a lot of dance covers also.
I am anti-fragile. I am anti-fragile.
Hello. Hello, am I back? Hello, am I back? Hello, am I back? No. Okay, am I still here? Yes. As you can see, Google Chrome crashed. But Edge is fine. Okay, I think I'm going to end the stream. Okay, I'm going to close this. Boom. I'm going to close this. Boom. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, close this. Close this. Anyway, this cover is very good. But yeah, maybe I will read this tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to check this message before. Okay, no, I can continue. In search of anti-fragility, the insertional concept of Nassim's Taleb anti-fragile is the notion that there are two opposing ways in which something can respond to volatility. Fragile things are harmed by volatility, while anti-fragile things benefit from it. Interesting. I have never read Anti-Fragile, but it was a book that I wanted to read, I guess, because the title is that powerful. Fragility implies more to lose than to gain from volatility and more downside than upside. Anti-fragility implies more to gain than to lose, more upside than downside. You are anti-fragile to a source of volatility if potential gains exceed potential losses and vice versa. I think this is my game on YouTube, I guess. Streaming is anti-fragile in that sense, right? I can only be as unemployed as I am right now, right? It doesn't get worse than this. Well, it can always get worse, but more or less, right? But the upside is infinite. Almost. Not exactly. But it's almost infinite. And especially in personal satisfaction, right? Fragile and anti-fragile can effectively be used as synonyms for non-ergodic and ergodic. A fragile actor is non-ergodic, and a truly anti-fragile actor is ergodic. I am not truly anti-fragile, probably, though. I need to get a job eventually, all these things. If you want to determine whether something is a fragile or anti-fragile, you expose it to volatility and see how it responds. Say you measure out when traffic increases by 1,000 cars in a city, travel time grows by 10 minutes. But if traffic increases by another 1,000 more cars, travel time now extends by an extra 30 minutes. Such acceleration of traffic time shows that traffic is fragile. The more volatile things get, the worse it gets. If you graph a fragile system, there is limited upside and unlimited downside. If traffic is very late, you might get to your destination 5 minutes faster. If it is very bad, it may take an hour. There is a negative asymmetry. If you graph an anti-fragile system, there is limited downside and unlimited upside. Going to cocktail parties is anti-fragile. You can only lose a bit of limited time. Limited downside, but you could meet someone who will change your life. Unlimited upside. Interesting. I guess that's the argument towards, like, in favor of partying and the nightlife and all that. If you are fragile or non-ergodic, meaning there is some chance of blowing up, then it's guaranteed that you will eventually blow up. It's important to note that if we stretch the time to infinity, everything is non-ergodic because all life will perish in the heat death of the universe. But this is not very helpful. We could say crossing the street is technically non-ergodic or fragile. However, in a single lifetime, it is effectively ergodic. The individual that crosses the street 1,000 times gets the same return as the ensemble. The question that is practically relevant is what time frame matters to you. Interesting. So what are the strategies that you can use to make your exposure more ergodic? Going ergodic. The approach of making yourself more ergodic in different scenarios is through diversification. Effective diversification can make non-ergodic situations more ergodic. There are two ways of thinking about diversification that I find helpful. 1. The barbell. 2. The equilibrium. These are very classic examples, by the way. The barbell. The barbell is an approach that advocates playing it safe in some areas and taking a lot of small risks in others. This is, I guess, my situation, right? I am playing it safe by living with my parents, blah, 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 but taking a lot of small risks, like doing one stream every day and uploading some YouTube videos over and over, right? That is extreme risk aversion on one side and extreme risk loving on the other, rather than just the medium risk attitude that is actually a version of Russian roulette. One example applied to your career would be to get skilled in an extremely safe and predictable profession, say accounting, blah blah blah, while moonlighting in something extremely risky, say acting. Acting is extremely non-ergodic, while accounting is much more ergodic. The two in combination are more ergodic than either alone. Okay, maybe I misunderstood and I'm actually not doing this. Antifragility is a combination of combining a multitude of entities so that each of one of them is non-ergodic, but the ensemble is ergodic. So you can make yourself more ergodic and anti-fragile by dividing yourself into an ensemble of entities able to fail independently without carrying down the others. Yeah, that makes sense, right? If, for example, if I fail at streaming, like I don't get more unemployed, right? That is the point. If I fail at streaming, I don't fail at everything. Although, yeah, I think I'll have to think about that because I don't think I have interpreted the right way. I would say maybe even I don't know. Antifragility, blah blah blah. One common example is combining a portfolio of treasury bonds, supposedly very safe, with stocks, supposedly very risky. Okay, I do this actually. That's how I invest. And indeed, over the last 30 years, stocks and treasury bonds have been mostly undercorrelated or uncorrelated. Similar to LTCM, these strategies' challenges are exacerbated because it relies on data going back only 30 years. Looking back over the last 120 years, stock and bonds are more frequently correlated than anti-correlated. Oops. If the relevant time here is one lifetime, the barbell strategy would suggest putting 80% into something less risky, like cash or unlevered real estate, and 20% into something much riskier, like angel investments or starting your own business. What matters here is not average correlation during a crisis, but correlation during a crisis or a black swan event. Take, for example, the size of safety exits in a theater. What matters is not whether they are large enough to pass through on average, but how easy they are to pass through during a fire. The key from a financial perspective is to prepare for a situation where the markets drop and your job income gets hit at the same time. Interesting. In one lifetime, it will likely happen. Volatility tends to cluster. Very true. Okay, I think I'm not going to read anymore. Kelly criterion. Cap bet size. The Kelly criterion is a betting strategy popularized by blah blah blah. So if he were using Kelly criterion, cousin Theodorus wouldn't have bet using his entire winnings each day. The Kelly criterion optimizes for typical wealth, not expected wealth. That, said another way, it assumes markets are non-ergodic. In effect, this means that the Kelly criterion makes it impossible to go bankrupt, which seems like a good idea. Simplest version of the Kelly criterion is edge under odds equals fraction of bankroll to allocate. The edge is the total expected value like we looked at initially, but it also incorporates the odds. To take a simple example, let's say you're offered a coin toss where your heads gets you 2 and tails you only lose 1. Your odds at 2 to 1. Your expected value is 50 and your odds at 2, so you should bet 25% of your bankroll. The Kelly criterion is about bringing as much ergodicity as possible into non-ergodic realms. Some way that this plays out in the real world would be to differentiate between ergodic expenses you can scale down if your income decreases, and non-ergodic expenses you cannot scale down if your income increases, such as debt. To increase the ergodicity, you would try to make both your liabilities and expenses as easily to scale down as possible. Interesting to know. Similarly, a founder of a company that sells a portion of the company to another investor like a private equity firm is using the Kelly criterion. We even call it taking chips off the table. We are very early in understanding encodicity. Let's follow. I wonder what his exposure to Twitter is. To crypto is. Let's see. From Taylor Pearson me, Peter Lynch. Okay, I'm ending the stream. Goodbye. Thank you for being here. Not sure if anyone remained until the end, but if you did, thank you. Bye bye.